Greetings, terrestrials, and welcome to Strange Times Indeed with Cliff McCallister. I, of course, am your host, Cliff McCallister, the Czar of the Bizarre. Every week on this show, we take your calls. We listen and hear stories about the unexplained, the paranormal, the supernatural. And we take your calls. You call in on Zoom because we want to hear from you, the viewer, the public, the unfiltered masses, about your encounters with the unexplained, be they specters, be they ghosts, be they extraterrestrials, cryptids, interdimensional beings. We hear stories about it all here on Strange Times Indeed with Cliff McCallister every Thursday, 9 o'clock, right here on twitch.tv/medcomedynight. But tonight's a little different. The phone lines are not open tonight. You see, I am currently practicing astral projection. And so while I may appear to be here, presently, physically, spiritually, and psychically, I am elsewhere. I am out in the world. I am currently following an employee at the Chicago O'Hare International Airport, keeping my eyes peeled for the O'Hare Mothman. That's right. There have been many sightings of the Mothman at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport, and we've been covering it ongoing over the past couple of months here on Strange Times Indeed with Cliff McCallister. So if you tune in, you are well up to date on that information. If you're asking yourself, what's the Mothman? Well, we'll get to that a little later in tonight's program. See, tonight we're going to be airing some clips of previous episodes, some incredible phone calls that you may have missed, that you won't want to miss this time around, and we'll be telling you a little bit more about the Mothman. So, go ahead, sit back and relax and get ready for a night of some incredible programming here on Strange Times Indeed with Cliff McCallister. And, of course, be sure to tune in every Thursday at 9 o'clock for the incredible programming that is Strange Times Indeed with Cliff McCallister. Now, this first clip coming in tonight is a phone call from one of our viewers, Lydia, who had as a child an interaction with a spirit on the C&O Canal. Let's go ahead and listen to that call. That's all right. So you have a ghost story to share with us tonight?
Yeah.
All right.
Strange happening. Fighting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, are you familiar with the C&O Canal, Cliff?
Yes, I believe so.
Towpath that runs alongside it, in between the Potomac River and the canal that used to extend from DC to Cumberland, Maryland.
Ah, is that what the C stands for?
C stands for Chesapeake.
And the O, what
Never
is that?
get to Ohio.
That's why I could have sworn the O is Ohio, but if it only stretched to Cumberland, it's still got a way to go. Maybe it was just an ambitious title.
Was. It fell short.
Well, what have you witnessed on this trail?
Well, those who don't know, a lot of sections now are dry now, with trees growing up the middle and decayed leaves.
Mm-hmm.
Very still and quiet. Some parts of the canal still have water in it, but a lot of the canal is dry. And there are remnants of the trade that used to go up and down the canal. So there are old locks and old lock keepers' houses. And there are also things like big concrete blocks with iron rings set in them to tie up mules and things like that. So I'm walking along the towpath one day, and there's a figure sitting on one of the old blocks with a ring stuck into it for tying up the mules, and he's facing the empty canal. And as I approach, I see that it's an old man.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a vest on, like kind of a fisherman style vest with lots of pockets. Kind of a classic, timeless sort of apparel, big floppy hat, and a fishing pole. And the fishing pole, the line is cast into the dry canal.
Uh-huh. That's bizarre. Did he pay you any mind, this old man, fishing in an empty canal?
Well, as I approached, he didn't seem to.
Hmm.
Uh, then I asked, "Catch anything?" He
Right.
turned his head, very, very look at me, pressed one finger, then turned.
It's
Not
very
knowing really what to make of that, I just continued walking, and I turned back, look at him, he was gone.
wow. And this, could you say again what it was he said after he pressed his finger to his lips? Oh, he just made a shushing sound.
Yes.
That is a that is something that would be a commonplace thing for a creature, an entity to say when pressing their fingers to their lips. This happens on the CNO Canal. Now, I'm curious to know if there are any other things of hauntings. Have you heard of folks fishing in the canal? Perhaps this is a man who once
Never heard
lost
or
his
seen it since.
wonder. I wonder if this is a man who perhaps has lost a loved one in the canal in his time alive. And every day he goes to the CNO Canal hoping to fish out what it was that he lost. That very person, drowned in the canal, perhaps. A troubling thing that he does not wish to talk about, he does not wish to hear, he does not wish to discuss the trauma of his life. And he fishes in this canal every day until he himself passes away and in spirit returns to the canal every single day in an attempt to find that which he so loves and lost within it.
Perhaps,
At
only
least
saw
that's just
him once.
my theory.
Yeah, it's a theory. It's a theory. I'm open to it. But I only saw him once, and I cursed that same path.
Do you remember where upon this path you saw it? Was there a particular mile marker? Other other ghost hunters, for lack of a better term, might wish to go find them.
Well, it was between Point of Rocks and mouth of the
Right.
big aqueduct.
And how recently did you witness this specter, this spectral fisherman?
This was 25 years.
Oh, 25. That is quite some time ago. And you say you traverse this path fairly regularly, but have not witnessed him since. Hmm. And I'm guessing, because it was 25 years ago, you might not have recollection of the exact date and time of day that this occurred.
It was fall, early autumn, and I had morning kindergarten, so it was in the afternoon.
All right. Well, that narrows it down, and that's fairly soon. Perhaps this is some sort of anniversary sighting, and some spirits only appear once a year on the anniversary of a horrible thing. Perhaps the anniversary of a man, the time in which a man might have thrown his beloved into the canal, and then just pretended to be fishing until, well, the dirty deed was done. It could have been a crime of sorts. And his spirit returns there every year to shush those onlookers who witnessed his horrible deed. But if this happened in the early autumn, the early autumn is upon us. It is almost time for the early autumn. So eagle-eyed searchers, folks who wish to find this specter, may be able to go out to the CNO Canal every day throughout early autumn in the afternoon. That's a pretty good narrow down to see if this specter may appear again.
Yeah, but if I come up behind you on a bike and yell on your left, please move to the right.
All right.
Fellow ghost hunters.
I might
Yes.
interject and say that's kind of difficult because all I hear is left.
Right. That's
So
where it confused
instinctually
me as well.
I jump to my left.
I say on your left.
Well, instead of saying on your left, could you say move to your right?
Steven, we gotta take this up on a bicycle etiquette.
Well, okay, all right. We'll
So
talk later.
a fair warning for any budding paranormal investigators out there who wish to find this specter. If you hear on your left, move to your right. Lydia, anything else for us this evening?
That's all tonight.
Well, thank you so much for calling in and sharing your ghost story with us tonight. We hope to use our resources within the show and this program to find out more information about this specter along the C&O Canal.
All right, let me know if you find.
Oh, you bet we will. We'll broadcast it right here. Strange Times Indeed with Cliff McCallister. Lydia, thank you so much for calling. An absolutely fascinating tale there from Lydia. Now, of course, if you have encountered a spirit, a specter on the C&O Canal, and you have evidence of it, but maybe you don't feel comfortable calling in and sharing with us live on the air, you can always send your tips to strangetipsindeed@gmail.com. Again, that address is strangetipsindeed@gmail.com. Now, this next clip from our show, as we mentioned earlier on in the program, sightings of the Mothman at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport may have some of you viewers sitting at home scratching your heads thinking, well, what is the Mothman? I'm not quite accustomed to this strange programming showing up in my feed. I've got to know, what is this creature that you speak of? Well, thankfully, back in our third episode, long before Twitch, back when we were broadcasting exclusively on Instagram Live, we cover the Mothman story in depth. And just this past Sunday, November 15th, was the 54-year anniversary of the first sighting of the Mothman, so let's go ahead and roll the clip from our third episode and hear about the very first sighting of the Mothman, the first encounter in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. The story begins as all do, with a young couple, a teenage boy and a teenage girl. They hop in their nice car and drive on down to the old abandoned TNT plant. Yes, that's right, the TNT plant, where the government was making explosives and war devices of some radioactive materials of sorts for the old war, for World War II. They were stored there in the TNT area. Now, this area, not necessarily the safest place to be, but it is a secluded area, far off the road and out of town, where teenagers can safely go to make out, as this was an abandoned area. The government had ceased to use it for their own means, and had since taken to using it, well, for pretty much nothing at all. Alright, so picture this. Johnny's in the front seat of the car, and he's really rocking to make out with Sally. There they are. They're going at it. Tongues in each other's mouths. It's out of control. It's wild. It's a crazy good time. It's the best good time you could have in the 60s, and that's probably because you are white. Like I was saying, tonight we are taking donations to Black Lives Matter. You take a donation, email the picture of your receipt to Kevin.Cole, our producer. He will draw a UFO cryptid on one of the pages from these books. He will mail it to you, so send him a receipt for your donation to Black Lives Matter and send your address. Now, this young white couple is getting hot. They're ready to go. They're in the front seat of their car. They're in the back seat of their car. They're going nuts when all of a sudden they catch something out of the corner of their eye. Up in the corner of the old TNT plant, a large creature, perhaps egg-shaped in its initial appearance, but large, dark, fully shadowed, with bright red, glowing eyes. And it stares at them, and they stare back at it, its hypnotic red eyes looking deep into their souls. And as anyone would, they are immediately struck with fear. They hop in the front seat and hightail it out of the TNT area, but this is not where their story ends, because as they're going down the road, this creature up on the top of the banisters takes flight. These huge wings, fully unseen, shown in shadow. I'll read that later. They're fully covered in shadow, flying towards them, just swooping down at the car. They're scared for their life. Eventually, they get out of the TNT area, back on the main road. They've escaped it. They're scarred. They file a police report, and that is not where the sightings end, but that is the most prominent one and the one that I remember the most. But this is where the story begins. John Keel, cryptozoologist, makes his way to town. Cryptozoologist and UFOologist starts going around. He's asking questions. He's finding out about other sightings. So-and-so saw it by the barn. One man lets his dog out at night, and the dog doesn't come back. A strange sighting of a creature with glowing red eyes off in the distance. This is the Mothman. An absolutely thrilling retelling of the story, Cliff, if I do say so myself. Now, of course, tuning into Strange Times Indeed with Cliff McCallister, you can hear these kind of bizarre tales every single week. We just wrapped up our 4-part bi-weekly series, Who Killed Marilyn, where we got to the bottom of the conspiracy of who killed Marilyn Monroe. And you can find all those old episodes on the Met Comedy Night YouTube channel. You can find our entire Twitch archive there and enjoy previous episodes of Strange Times Indeed with Cliff McCallister. Educate yourself. And we'll be back after this break with more Strange Times Indeed. Don't change that channel.
The very instant that I saw you did my heart fly to your service. There resides to make me slave to it, and for your sake am I this patient log man.
Do you love me?
No heavens or earth.
Hello everyone, my name is Stephen Craig, Technical Director of the Maryland Ensemble Theater, giving you a backstage tour of everything that goes into our production of Tempest. But first, let's give it up for the actors in Tempest. Robert and Ray, please take a bow for everybody. Thank you so much. Alright, and this way we have our stage manager. Hi. Annie, you have to press a go cue for all the pre-recorded actors in the show, totaling how many cues?
About over 2,000.
Something around, it's thousands of cues in our program, so all the actors that aren't on stage got pre-recorded and are played on multiple monitors in the space. We have a triple head, a Matrox triple head to go splitter that sends 3 feeds out to the column, which you'll see in just a little bit, that run 12 different monitors for our show. And the sound goes to amps that are in the house, but also the sound from the QLab files comes over to here, the soundboard, where we have our production manager, Melinda, running the mics
Hello.
and the sound.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Yeah.
And you are actively live mixing this show, correct?
Correct.
All
yes.
right. And then the sound from that goes out into the Sling Studio Hub over here. This is Shaden, our broadcaster for the piece. That's operating Sling Studio. Can you show the operations? Tilt your computer over here. We can switch from multiple different video sources or live cameras on this. And this is the quad view of our actors, and in this Tech Week, we were able to view the lights and make notes on which camera angles we wanted to have and other switches that needed to happen in the show through this monitor. And let's go on stage and check out some of the other tech. First, here we are. This is our COVID table as far as temperature checking everyone that's in the building, signing in so we can do some tracing. We have hand sanitizer here, and every station has Lysol wipes so every individual can wipe down their station upon exiting. Oh, and Kristen is here, our QLab programmer who designed and engineered all of this video and sound that goes and gets projected into the monitors. Ken is our stage left camera operator and also did the recording of the actors that came in and each recorded all the lines individually to be edited and sent to our monitors. So yeah, right this way, come on stage. So I said earlier that we had 3 VGA cables coming to the column. We have 3 VGA splitters that split each signal 4 ways. So for example, one of the splitters goes to this monitor at the front of the column, this monitor at the back of the column, one monitor over here stage left, and another monitor over there stage right. So, 3 feeds, 3 4-way splitters, 12 TVs. And we have a back camera way back here in the back, so you can see some of the stage action that happens behind the column if any of the cameras don't work. For picking up the shot, that is. And then, Sparky is our stage right cameraman. We also have a front camera because the Sling Studio can pick up a wireless phone signal and still be able to stream it out to you, the viewer. And right here we have the light board. Stephen Knapp is the lighting designer and also runs lights for our production. And then our last station over here, I have a little computer to make sure that I set up this end of the stream while Kevin, the marketing coordinator, who's recording this video, embeds it onto the website for you to see. Thank you so much for checking out this production of Tempest. We have one more weekend, so tell people about this experience. It's a wild ride and a very unique time. Thank you for supporting the Met.
The king's son Ferdinand with hair upstaring, then like reeds, not hair, was the first man left, cried, hell is empty and all the devils are here.
That's my spirit.
Greetings, terrestrials, and welcome back to Strange Times Indeed with Cliff McCallister. I, of course, your host, Cliff McCallister, the Czar of the Bizarre. Now, as you may have just seen that ad for The Tempest at the Maryland Ensemble Theater, every week here at Strange Times Indeed, we dedicate our programming to the Maryland Ensemble Theater because they're the only theater with the guts to put us on the air. Now, of course, any other theater, they'd shy away from us, but we focus on telling the truth here on Strange Times Indeed. We offer it as a public service for people to come on air, call into our Zoom, and expose all the bizarre and unexplained going-ons in the world, and some people don't want that information out there. But the Maryland Ensemble Theater, they've got the guts to give us a space to say what needs to be said, and we thank them for that every week. Now, of course, you can support the Maryland Ensemble Theater right now by getting your tickets to The Tempest, the second production in their main stage season of surprises. It's live streaming this weekend. This is the final weekend, happening at the Maryland Ensemble Theater, an incredible production. You can get your tickets at marylandensemble.org/Tempest. It's got 2 actors live in the space, everyone else on screens around. You saw the trailer, you've got an idea. And perhaps maybe The Tempest isn't quite your bag, maybe you're not quite ready for Shakespeare yet. Well, have you tried Dungeons & Dragons? Have you tried improvised Dungeons & Dragons? Tomorrow night, Friday, 9 o'clock on twitch.tv/MetComedyNight, you can join Okrit, the Dungeons & Dragons improv troupe, performing their signature show live on Twitch. 9 o'clock, they'll be taking your suggestions. You'll be following them on a wild new adventure. That's happening 9 o'clock, twitch.tv/MetComedyNight. And if you want to support this show and help it grow, be sure to head over to marylandensemble.org/donate. Now, this next clip, this next call, comes from a caller named Amber. Amber had a frightening and, if I may say, a gothic horror experience at Frederick's own Hood College when they were going to college there in the past. Now, if you've had an experience at Hood College, if this story brings up some troubling memories of encounters with the supernatural at Hood College, as I have heard, there have been multiple sightings there beyond just this story we are about to share, then please, by all means, call in on a future episode or send your story to strangetipsindeed@gmail.com. Let's roll that clip. Alrighty. How's it going? This is Strange Times Indeed with Cliff McCallister. Who may I ask is calling tonight?
Hi, Cliff. I think I've met your producer before.
Yes, Kevin.
He's a cool dude. Definitely let him know.
I'll be sure to pass the news along.
I've got a ghost story that I don't think I've told a lot of people.
All right. Well, we love ghost stories here on Strange Times Indeed with Cliff McCallister.
So last week, Colin's story really got me thinking about haunted houses that I've possibly been inside. And then I realized that I've never talked about this one. And it's like from 8 years ago. All right.
All right.
And there are like 5 other people that could corroborate this that will not talk about this story.
Okay.
So, and also, I guess like school's back, and I went to a school a while ago, and so this is about a school in the city we live in.
All right.
Shout out to Hood College for giving me just a night. Okay. So it's not aliens, and it's not aliens, Cliff, and I'm super sorry about that.
No. Hey, a night in a college that becomes a nightmare?
Oh, it was so much.
We
Okay.
don't discriminate about what extraterrestrial stories we hear on the show or what paranormal stories.
All
The
right.
important thing is that it's para, not normal.
That's very welcoming. Okay, so about 8 years ago, I was a freshman in college and I was taking a Gothic literature class. And Gothic literature is like the spooky stuff, right? And my teacher was Crimson Peak, like very turn of the screw, a lot of Shirley Jackson kind of stuff. So I was taking this class and I was a child. All right, so I was a child and I wanted extra credit. And I had heard that Broadbeck Music Hall was the most haunted building on campus. So Broadbeck Music Hall is now it's used, I guess, as like the music department in Hood College. It's a 2-story brick building. Apparently it's also the oldest building on campus, and it used to be a building downtown in downtown Frederick. And so Broadbeck had a history of being a brothel, a vaudeville music hall, a brothel again, and then somebody's house and then it was used as like a multi-purpose venue in like the early 20th century and there was like church and stuff there. And then it got relocated to the Hood College campus. I don't know how long ago, probably in the early 20th century, mid 20th century. I don't remember. My memory is hazy. College was a blur.
That's all right. As long as this night is crystal clear.
Oh, so I was so I decided that I brought in friends to do like a exposing the secrets of Broadbeck Hall like video for my class because I really wanted to get on this. I just wanted extra credit and I really wanted to be a super achiever. And so we went at 3 a.m. We went at we figured that was the spookiest time to go. It was like me and 4 other people with our like dinky 10-year-old, I guess like iPhone cameras, I think. And we were like Broadbeck isn't haunted. And we were going to cut it to just be like just a goofy 5-minute video to be like, Broadbeck's not haunted. Y'all are chumps.
So you went in to disprove it. You went in as skeptic.
Yeah, we were like, this is dumb, but like it was super up our teacher's alley. And then I had dressed up my friend as a ghost to be like, this is a fake ghost. And so we had her like running around this hall. We had gotten full permission. So we didn't do this we got full permission from facilities to do this.
You did not commit a crime. You did not break into the building.
Commit a crime. If like anybody from is watching.
So there's no reason to try to discredit this story. You can't say Amber George has a criminal record. They cannot. You cannot trust their word.
So Broadbeck has a basement, a ground floor with a music hall, and then a top floor with access to basically a top pew area for the music hall. So what happened to us that night was we spent about an hour just wandering around this spooky old building. Half the lights weren't turning on. We didn't know. We figured that was part of it's when it gets shut down at night, they turn off a breaker or something to save electricity because it was really old and the wiring was bad.
Right. It's part of its charm.
And it was in November, I think, because it was kind of cold. And so then at the end of the night, we started hearing shuffling from upstairs, and we were all in the one music hall because we were getting really bored because it was 4 a.m. And we hear
still
shuffling.
hadn't experienced anything.
Yeah, we hadn't experienced anything. We were just dumb college kids sitting in this music hall. And it's a big old music hall, super echoey. And then so that was adding to our heightened sense of fear. But we started hearing shuffling, I swear to God, coming from above in the pew area. And we were like, "Ah, who's up there? Who's taking a pee?" Nobody, we were all in the same area. All right. And so we started hearing all these weird like shuffling sounds, like people moving stuff. And we were like, okay, we're getting kind of spooked. We're all like 12 years old or 18, whatever. And so we were getting like kind of freaked out. So we tried to send somebody up there and he straight up wouldn't. And so he went up to like, and then we were like, okay, we'll go up with you. And then a door had been locked that we didn't lock. And I swear to God, we were sober. And we were like, okay, this is kind of freaky. Maybe it locked behind us. So then we make our way downstairs. We're all kind of we're like kind of freaking out because we're like, okay, like who locked this door? And nobody in our group had the time to lock the door. And we knew that we were the only people there because facilities doesn't run checks that late. And so we had like all the lights on. So like facilities could have seen us and like knew what we were doing. And
right.
so,
and you talked to them beforehand.
And we had like talked. Yeah. And so we get down, it's like, we had like turned our iPhones off at this point. Cause we were like, okay, it's time to go. Like we're done. But then we hear, and so we're like all trying to turn off the lights, but nobody wants to go alone anymore to turn off lights. So we all move as like a unit of fish swimming through this old house. And we go to turn off like we go to like try to close the big music hall doors. And then somebody screams. And so we all turn our heads because like the one person had like tried to lock. And then there's, I swear to God, like a black hoop skirt, Cliff, like passes like by the door, like the curve of like a hoop skirt we see moving past this door in the bright like electric light at 4 a.m. I swear we all saw it. And we said, okay, it's time to go. But we all shrieked and ran out without locking anything. And so we had to go back in and like relock everything. And we didn't see anything. But we all saw what I swear was a ghost, was this lady in a black dress walking past in this hall.
Oh my goodness.
And it was so cool and it was so scary. And then that's really like a Crimson Peak moment. I know, it was so cool. And then we later asked around, because I wanted to know like what was up.
Has anybody else
seen this? And
we just thought it was a phony, a big old hoax.
There's a kid named Herman who had spent a night in Broadbeck as like a ghost thing. And he also had seen a lady in black. And we found this out afterward. And so he had seen her too. And he like stopped talking about it. He was like, yeah, I've seen her. And then he literally left me in the, like he just turned and left. And so Broadbeck Hall in Hood College, super haunted. And it was the first time I've ever seen like a real ghost. It's the craziest story I have.
Wow. That sounds incredible. And no one will talk about it. The one guy who did it was like, yes, it happened.
Yes, it happened.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, he didn't want to talk about it. I was like, this is the coolest thing that's also ever happened to you.
And you were there with 4 or 5 other people who also don't want to talk about it.
There's also 4. Yeah, there's I think my one friend will talk about it, but all these other people were like, hey Amber, we're never doing a project with you again. Sorry.
You've got bad cosmic energy, Amber.
It's like, this is the coolest project we've ever done. And our professor, our editing was really bad. And we had so we never caught it on tape, but we all saw it. 4 other people saw it with me. It was, or 3 or 4 other people saw it with me. It was crazy.
And then you had to show your professor your silly video that's like, haha, this isn't there's no ghosts in this building.
With a girl dressed up like a fake ghost with shitty ghost makeup.
That's why you don't mock the spirits. They'll always remind you they're there.
It was wild. She was so mad. And she just like walked past. She was like, all right. And it was just the black part of her skirt.
I exist. I can scream.
Yeah, it was great.
I can probably do more if you tempt it.
It was so cool.
All right, let's see. We've got a comment in the chat here from C.T. Schultze, our haunted house friend. He says, I just had my garage rewired today. In fact, it was incredibly expensive. How much do you think it would cost to rewire the Hood College Music Hall? Did the hoop skirt ghost have a scream that you would consider to be electrifying?
No, she just sounded like a. I mean, it's always a need.
What were you about to say there? She sounded like a hottie?
It was like a high, like very clear scream. I'm not electric, unfortunately.
Well, what we like to do on the show, everyone sees my face when something strange happens. What face did you make when you heard that scream?
Oh, when I was like a little 12 to 18-year-old femme, I was, oh no. I was laughing, but I was also very scared.
Right.
So it was probably more like a.
Wonderful. That's what Steven's face when you told the story. Well, Amber, anything else you'd like to talk about tonight?
Unfortunately, I think I don't have any good. I've got a couple other stories, but I'll save them.
All right. Well, that was a great one for tonight. Thank you so much for calling. We'll let you go, Amber. Thank you for joining us on Strange Times Indeed with Cliff McCallister.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for calling. Another fascinating story, of course. Thank you to Amber, who called in the past, as well as thank you to Lydia from earlier, who called into the past. We've got one more incredible phone call to share for you this night. Another phone call that involves the supernatural, that involves ghosts, spirits, and haunted houses. Now, if you're listening to this, you think, gee, I've got to share something with Cliff. Not only can you do it through our email or by calling in live on the show, but you can interact with me at any time by following me on social media. I'm on Twitter at StrangeT, That again, on Twitter at StrangeT, T for Twitter, Indeed. Or you can follow me on Instagram at the full show's title, Strange Times Indeed. Strange Times Indeed on Instagram, Strange Times Indeed on Twitter. We've got all sorts of fun content there. You can stay abreast of current episodes, current programming notes, all sorts of things. So be sure to follow me there. We can grow this show together. This next clip, our friend Colin calls in about a terrifying house that he used to live in, a haunted house that was prone to not only poltergeist-type activity, but physical, harmful damage to the human body. Let's roll that clip.
Hello there.
Hello! Welcome to Strange Times Indeed with Cliff McCallister. I'm your host,
Hello.
Cliff McCallister. Who may I ask is calling?
My name is Colin. Hello, Cliff. I've never been on your show before, but I've watched it once or twice on the Instagram before you switched to the Twitch. And I made sure to make a second Twitch account just to watch your show on Twitch.
Can I ask for permission to put your video up into the live stream?
I feel like I kind of gave that permission. You know what I mean? Like when Twitch was like, you can have all of your identity is now stolen. I was like, okay, but since you're asking, I guess I'll say absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Show away.
All right, if you say so. Here you go.
Okay, cool.
All right, Colin. Thank you for calling in. So, what is on your mind tonight?
So, I've actually wanted to talk to you about this for a while. I lived in, I want to say it was a haunted house.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it was like a haunted house, like, there was a ghost in it, but maybe there was a poltergeist. But there was all these warning signs prior to going in there. It was in Frostburg, Maryland. I was living up there, and I have a friend who's a mutual friend of yours, Cliff, and his name is Steve. And he actually used to hang out in that house with me a lot. And my first day moving into the house, I opened up a drawer and a desk that was left there, and it said something like, "What a beautiful yellow brick house. It seems like a blessing. It's more like a curse." And immediately I was like, oh man, this place is spooky, but it didn't seem that bad. Everything seemed cool. So I set up all my stuff, and then within the first day moving in, my legs started itching really bad. I had like this insane itching over my whole body. Found out that the people who lived there prior to me had a bunch of cats and they had fleas. So they had to flea bomb the place before I could move back in. They had to take all the carpets out, which really spooked the spirits that I'm about to tell you about. I'm just building you up for it. So I went home with my flea-bitten legs, you know. I waited for them to tear the carpet out, moved back in that weekend, and that's when all the weird stuff started happening. So first thing, number one, I was laying in bed and it was like pale moonlight coming in my window, and I fell asleep. And right as I went over the threshold of falling, someone brushed their fingers through my hair, kind of like this. I have my hair short now. So they brushed their fingers through my short hair, just like this. And I felt them touch my forehead, so I woke up.
And you said you were falling?
So yeah, I woke up and I was like, okay, you know, this is maybe it was a bug, right? It was just a bug.
It could be more.
So the next night, maybe more fleas. Exactly. That makes sense. The next night, my roommate moved in upstairs. There was actually 5 of us living there, but they were moving there day by day through a course of a week, and I was the first one to move in. My roommate moved in, and he was asleep as well as happened at night, and he started hearing someone punching the closet door on the 2nd level. So he opened up the closet door, and there's like, 6 inches of space between the wall. It's kind of like something to hold cans in, I guess.
Oh, it's it's one of those little mini closets.
Right. Yeah. So there's
got no depth at all.
Nobody could fit in the can closet.
In the wall.
So yeah, exactly. So so that was really wild and scary. But we were like, okay, that's funny. So then this guy comes next door. He comes over to our house. He lived next door, and he walked over and he said, guys, I actually moved in next door. I used to live in this house. He said, there's something wrong with the washer. There's something wrong with the shower. But the worst thing is there's a poltergeist. And we all started laughing, me and my jabroni friends. And he was like, no, I'm serious. Like, I'm serious. So I started dating this girl, and she had just came to my downstairs area of my apartment. She was like, wow, it's really scary down here. Like, this place has like really negative energy. And I didn't believe in negative energy. I didn't believe in energy at all. I didn't even believe in the sun at the time. I was like, there's no energy. There's no, so I was like, whatever that means. We went to sleep. We were like actually hanging out watching a movie, and we both like fell asleep. And I had this insane dream about this German man, and his wife had this wolf mask, like was her face, and my skin turned to bones. And it was this insane dream. I've never had a dream like that before. But when I woke up to her screaming. And as she's screaming, there's like this hovering like blue light over her, and it disappears. And I was like, what the hell was that? And she's like, I saw this old man. He was like hovering over my body right when you woke up. That's why I started screaming. And it was like probably 5 a.m.
Right.
So, okay, I'm trying to like get my bearings about me. This was kind of weird. Like now I'm starting to believe in.
This is at the same time you're having this weird dream about the German man and his wife in the wolf mask?
Yeah, and there was like a church choir got shot in my dream. It was such a weird dream. Like it was really graphic, like scary dream. Like there was there were aliens in the dream, but like when I say aliens, I'm putting that in quotes because like there were people who looked like you and I guess. But they were obviously from somewhere else, and they were like putting these thoughts in my head. And I remember they kept telling me, like the people at the end of the dream, like, we implanted the thoughts of that German man. We implanted the thoughts of that. And then I woke up to this, which I thought was really weird. So I'm wondering if maybe I don't know. So, I thought everything's cool. Then my room, things are getting better. Like things are actually getting better. We're having better times in the house. Things were never normal after that though. Like I remember we were all like the vibe of the house was different. But things were getting better. Like there weren't as many weird paranormal things happening in the house. And my roommate wakes up one morning and he's like, hey, I need you to see something. This is really weird. And he has like a full stab wound in his side. And like his bed is like has like blood on it and everything. And I was like, what happened? And he's like, I have no idea. I woke up like this. I'm telling you about like a third of what I can even think of right now. But from the day that the ghost man was over my girlfriend and like, or blue light as I saw, you know, and the moon was really bright in that room. You know, it was like moonside. I remember every time the moon hit like a certain spot, I was like, bingo, like I got this perfect light. But like ever since my roommate had the stab wound, like from that day forward, like I said, I need to get out of this house. And I stayed there for 2 years and we ended up, I think we got evicted. I feel like we may have gotten like kicked out because we were like, you know, having too much fun as college kids or something.
That's
but
troubling.
yeah,
that's troubling to get evicted from the haunted house.
I know.
You were more of a nuisance than the spirits.
I know. There was a lot of issues
that stabbed your friend.
But it was really, I get excited thinking about it because I loved that house. Like it was a beautiful house and I couldn't believe that I scored something like that in college and I was paying like $300 a month or something to live there. So it was this like really cool, beautiful house, but it was like the most terrifying place on earth. And there was always like, you would always hear stuff. And there was this basement area. We came downstairs one time and our landlord called me from my basement. She was like driving by because she saw smoke coming out of my garage. And I thought, you know, this was like a Cheech and Chong moment or something, but there was like just a smoldering happening on my couch of my garage. So like weird, like, you know, things that could almost go wrong would go wrong in this house. And you asked for troubling stories. I think about this story. I think about that house all the time. And it was just like terrifying. Everybody who came there was like, this place feels weird. And I was like, I know, I think something happened. But anyway, yeah, that's
very interesting.
That's my wild story of my house in Frostburg. I don't remember the address right now.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it was wild. I mean, there's so much more that I'm not remembering. I had a friend and she would come over and we were in a band together. So we would have band practices, but then she said, we can't practice here anymore. And she was really, really religious, really spiritual, you know? Mm. So, and she said she felt like demonic presence. Let's hear it.
Oh, here we go. The question is, did you ever look it up in historic records?
So, okay. I did. I actually looked it up through my property manager, but I couldn't find anything from the city of Frostburg. So it was built in the late 60s, but I don't think anyone lived there until the 70s. And there was this fraternity, like alumni who was like, he was in this fraternity and he bought the house and he was just kind of like letting the frat kids stay there, I guess, from the time to time if they wanted to come in and stay there. And then after like 20 years, they sold it to this property manager, A to Z Realty Company. For any of you out there who use A to Z, they're still around. They're still kicking. They have like 300 homes in the Frostburg area, but A to Z Realtor, they bought them out and I asked a ton of questions after I read that. I was like, what happened here? And who's this guy? This hasn't been that long. I can't think of anything, you know, because all the big stuff that happened in the Frostburg area was during like the coal mining boom,
right? Which
was 1800s, you know, so that was, you know, maybe it was just that it's over top of a whole bunch of abandoned coal mines and there's all these, you know, Silent Hill energy like coming up from it or something. So.
And I think what's interesting too, you know, the worst stuff there seemed to happen in the 18th century. That's around the time the settlers were coming in, and particularly the Central America area around Maryland, as we were talking about earlier with the Snallygaster, with the initial sightings in around the 1730s. That's when a lot of Germans were coming into that area. And you mentioned earlier that in your bizarre dream, that man was there with that German man.
The German man.
There could be some very far back going, like ancient curse on this house, perhaps. Just connecting those 2 points. And that was kind of
a really like this German or Dutch man from his farm or something. Yeah. Well, yeah, but right up. And the weirdest part about talking to the German man is I remember it so vividly. I've never had a dream so vivid in my life. Like that was the weirdest thing. But like after I finished talking to him, my skin fell off. Like that was the weirdest. Like I talked to him and it was almost like he was toxic, but he wouldn't let me talk to his wife, which I thought was also really was like, don't talk to her. And I was like, excuse me, ma'am, I need to know how to get my car fixed or whatever. And she had this like like
But
wolf
then
mask
at the
on.
same
Yeah.
time, your girlfriend is asleep in bed and having some other equally terrible dream where you wake up and there's a blue orb over her. It's almost as if that moment there is the curse of whatever this is settling in on you until you leave. That's like the final warning sign.
I know. I actually and the funny thing is I had, like I said, I had 5 mates and they all moved. Well, 3/5 of them moved out before I did, and the last 2 remaining, we left together. We didn't move to the same house together, but we actually, one of my roommates, but the others kind of went their own separate ways. But they were all terrified of that place. They wouldn't go there alone. Nobody would stay there alone. I remember that was a big thing, and all this weird stuff would happen. There was a drug raid there. And there were like a bunch of sober kids living in a house together, which I always I always thought that was super weird because it was like the last place you would ever expect something like that to happen with just like the group of people I was spending time with. So they were such good, not saying that drugs are bad to anybody out there who's like pushing that agenda. I'm just saying like they were just, wholesome people that I never expected. Like little things like that. There would always be, the police would show up and ask questions like, we're looking for this person. Why are you asking us? Well, they were in this house last. No, they weren't. Like, we don't know who you're talking. I mean, that happened a lot. We had all sorts of strange things like that. We had,
It's based on they were at this house once. That's very troubling, as if it leaves a mark on people. Like, I don't want to freak you out, but that's
it was so weird. It was so weird. And my bedroom had a little shed that was built out back, and it was completely torn down and the foundation was still there, but it was such an old foundation that it was like kind of rotting into the pavement, kind of became the pavement. So it was like cement block that was like turning into pavement. But anyway, that's my tale of horror.
That's incredible.
Terror.
Colin, we've got some comments in the chat before we let you go.
Okay.
Just some general potential feedback from Prince of Boxes says your house wasn't part of this plane, almost as if when entering it you would go to some sort of in-between space.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point because I never had dreams or emotions like I had in that house. It was all sorts of stuff. The house was flooded once. A guy fell into the water heater. And he flooded that. And that wasn't a ghost. That was just a guy. But I'm telling you, it was just a weird thing that
it's
happens
still troubling
at 3 a.m.
when that happens.
It's troubling. I know. Yeah. And the washing machine was always broken. That guy was right about that. The washer and dryer and the shower were broken from the get-go.
Wow. Well,
nothing to do with paranormal, but
hey, that's all right. It seems like a lot of good happened in that house.
I'll never forget. I'm surprised I've never talked to you about this, Cliff. I'm surprised that we've never had a conversation about this. I've met you once or twice, and this is something I feel like we would have had a conversation about. But it was one of the scariest homes I've ever been in my life to this day. I don't know who's living there now, and whoever you are, I kind of want to go warn you or something. But it's still on the market. A to Z still owns it. I went there not too long ago to the Frostburg area, and I saw that old house. I drove by and was like, whoa.
Well, Colin, before you go, would you feel comfortable if you remember that address, sending us that email, and we can do an independent investigation to see if we can find out anything more?
Absolutely. Yes.
Wonderful.
It's on, you know what? I know it's on East College Avenue, so I'll look for the rest. But.
All right. When you figure that out, send that to strangetipsindeed@gmail.com.
Sounds good. All right, everybody. Thank you, Cliff.
Colin.
Thank you, team. Matt Comedy, everybody. All my love.
Thank you so much.
Seacrest out.
Another truly fascinating and bizarre encounter. Well, folks, that just about brings us to a close for tonight's episode. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for tuning in and encourage you to please support the Maryland Ensemble Theater. You can do that by visiting marylandensemble.org/donate. You can get your tickets to their upcoming production of The Tempest, or their currently happening production of The Tempest, at marylandensemble.org/tempest. Watch that live streaming through this weekend, and be sure to tune in right here, twitch.tv/metcomedynight tomorrow night at 9 o'clock to see Crit, the Dungeons & Dragons improv show. And of course, our show, as always, is dedicated to the Maryland Ensemble Theater, the only theater with the guts to put us on the air. I'd like to thank you at home for viewing. I'd like to thank Colin, Amber, and Lydia, our callers from the past in this very special episode. I'd like to thank everyone who's called in and tuned into our show throughout the past couple months. And I'd especially like to thank our technical director, Stephen Craig, for hitting play on this very special episode. Now, we will be back. We will not be back next week. Next week is Thanksgiving, as you may know, and we are not currently planning to do a live show that night, but who knows? If you follow me on Strange Times Indeed on Instagram, I could go live at any moment, and you could be there to join us, and we could have a crazy Thanksgiving right over there. But we'll be right back here on twitch.tv/MetComedyNight on Thursday, December 3rd at 9 o'clock. You gotta tune in. You gotta call in. If you've experienced anything strange in the past month, anything you can't explain, we will be here for you. I've got an open ears and an open heart to hear your encounters with the unexplained. Until then, I'm Cliff McCallister, the Czar of the Bizarre. Stay strange, terrestrials.